Okay, so once I have access to your account, the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look to see if there's any campaign history from the past, because it's possible that there's some data or some hidden gems there that we can use to inform the campaigns moving forward. So it's totally fine if there's no campaign history and if this is a new account and it's your first time running ads, because we can definitely start cold. But if there is any campaign history, I'll definitely look at that and look at things like click-through rates, engagement, numbers like that, to see if there's any data that we can use to inform what sort of copy or creative is working, as well as if we can create lookalike audiences, which I'll explain to you in a moment. So that being said, after I'm in the account and I've looked at the history, given that there is history, and if there is no history, the first thing that I always do is create audiences. Now, I create several different audience variations so that we can kind of ensure the success of the campaigns and just establish good practices moving forward for you. So the first thing that I'm going to do is create custom audiences called custom engagement audiences. And that's where we take all those who've engaged with your brand, either on your website, your Facebook page, or your Instagram page in the last 365, 30, and 7 days. And we put them into these dynamic audiences. And when I say dynamic audiences, I mean that they change and they populate in real time. So as people engage with your brand anywhere on your social media or on your website, these audiences are populating with those engagements and filling up, and we can use them to create a retargeting audience. Now, when I say engagement audience, that's basically anyone who's visited your site, maybe made a purchase, anyone who's become a lead on your site or on your social media profiles. Maybe they've liked a post, commented, shared, visited your page, messaged your page, any sort of actual action that they've done with your brand online, we're going to be able to capture in real time on the custom engagement audiences. Now, once I've established your website visitor audiences and your Facebook and Instagram engagement audiences, I save them all into a retargeting audience. And that way, when we run these ads to the cold audience, which is of course no one who's only those who have not engaged with you before, as people engage with those ads that we're funding, we want to make sure that they see different variations of the ads and the retargeting ad set that we're going to create for you. So that's the first step, is just making sure that we have the custom engagements set up as well as the retargeting set up and the initial audience. And I'll begin creating an initial audience based on the product research, maybe some competitor research, and try to get it in that optimum size based on whatever your ad spend budget is. I typically recommend that audiences range from 50,000 people in size to 5 million people in size, and it just really depends on what your budget is and what your industry is as to what size an initial audience should be. But we'll go through, we'll make sure we're targeting the right locations, the right interests, the right demographics, and really get those personas right. Now, as we begin running the ads and driving engagement, what we can do is then create lookalike audiences. And I mentioned these earlier. What a lookalike audience is an audience that looks like an existing audience, right? So let's say that you have a spreadsheet of all of your customers. We can upload that into Facebook and we can create a 1% lookalike audience, say in the United States. So that would be the top 1% of people who most closely resemble all of your existing customers in that case. So based on their interests, demographic information, and their general behavior on Facebook, we're going to be able to create those lookalike audiences. We do the same thing with certain behaviors that we track in terms of engagement. So if we have thousands of engagers, for example, on the ad campaign that we run, we can create lookalike audiences. So we're targeting people who most closely resemble only those who are actually engaging with your brand. And so that's sort of the second phase in the campaign strategy. We start with the first phase with the initial audience and the retargeting setup, and then as we collect enough data, we create these lookalike audiences to increase the performance and decrease the cost per result that we're seeking.